Hi, my name's Graham Ward and I'll be the facilitator for this unit standard Conduct a Formal Meeting 13914. You'll ask yourself, why should you do conduct a formal meeting when most of the meetings that you're performing in your offices are informal? Well, one day you might find yourself being at a soccer club or perhaps even at a conference, and you'll have to conduct a formal meeting. Even the Parent Teachers Association will require you to conduct a formal meeting the correct way. When conducting a formal meeting, it's important to handle the physical arrangements of that meeting. For example, you will want to look at where the venue is. Are there enough chairs, desks, tables? Is there water? And all the facilities around that meeting place. Air conditioning is also an important factor to consider when hosting a formal meeting. The documentation is also important to prepare for the meeting. You'll need to think about the agenda, the previous minutes of the meeting, and any other documentation such as financials that may be required to be talked about at the meeting. So the starting point of the meeting is the agenda. The agenda is the starting point of the meeting. It's the most important document. It's very important that the agenda is followed throughout the meeting so that you do not become waylaid and go off time or take too long about your meeting. None of us want to attend a meeting which was scheduled for 30 minutes and takes 1.5 hours, for example. The agenda must follow a sequenced set of events. For example, coming up on your screen now is the only way a formal agenda must be set up. There has to be a welcoming and an open meeting by the chairman. There has to be apologies for those that were invited to the meeting and could not attend. And then there's usually the approval of the minutes of the previous meeting. This is important because we want to make sure that the meeting we previously had was documented correctly and that those minutes are a true reflection of that meeting. Then we talk about matters arising from the previous meeting. And of course, at this point now, we talk about the specific topics we need to discuss at this meeting. What do we need to talk about, such as occupational health and safety, or maybe firefighting drills, or emergency procedures. Whatever has to be talked about and what this agenda is about is now when we'll talk about it. Towards the end of the meeting, you will typically have an any other business section. During this section, people who are attending the meeting may raise other matters of concern. These are also documented and minuted. Be careful here because during this any other business section, people can become waylaid and it can stretch the meeting time well beyond its due time. Once the any other business section has been completed, the chairman then tries to set a new date and time for the next follow-up meeting. It needs to be agreed upon by the other members of the meeting, a new time and date for the next meeting. Finally, the chairman will close the meeting. At this point, the meeting is no longer being minuted and the meeting has been officially closed. A date and time stamp for this will be recorded in the minutes. Let's take a look at the minutes of the meeting. These are normally handwritten by the secretary at the meeting. She records the main points of the meeting as and when they take place during the course of the meeting. It's important that the minutes are a true reflection of the meeting. Where decisions are taken or made by members of the meeting, these too are recorded by the secretary. Thus, a true reflection of the meeting is embedded inside the minutes of the meeting. What's also important to understand about minutes is that we get them to the parties that attended the meeting within 24 or 48 hours no later, so that we can see what was said or done or what decisions were made at that meeting. Don't forget, the minutes will also be recording what's going to be done, by who and by when. So we want people to know shortly after the meeting exactly what they'll have to be doing and by when. This gives accountability and ensures that our meetings are purposeful. Let's briefly take a look at the 3 roles that are performed at a meeting. The first role is that of chairman. The chairman is an important person because he steers the meeting to ensure it follows the agenda as set out. The secretary, on the other hand, is the person who takes minutes. She or he may even be the person which delivers the documentation and ensures that everybody has a copy of the agenda at the meeting. The treasurer typically is the finance person of the organization. They deliver the budgets and also the financial matters relating to an organization or to that meeting. There are many reasons why an organization or a group of people would want to have a formal meeting. perhaps for discussion or for planning purposes. Whatever the reasons are, the meeting must have a purpose. Without a purpose, there's no objective, and without an objective, there's no reason for having the meeting. Bear in mind, you're here to have meetings to make decisions. You want to know what has to be done, by who, and by when. Without that happening, you really are wasting time. And at this day and age, none of us really have the time to waste. So ensure that your meetings are purposeful, have objectives, and want your company or organization or team to go somewhere, to do something, to make decisions. No meeting would be fun without a little bit of conflict or someone talking on the side or a disruption of some sort. However, conflict inside a meeting can be very destructive, especially if you're trying to be the chairperson and steer the meeting through the agenda. You need to control conflict. How can you do this? Well, one of the ways you could control conflict is to stop people talking at the same time. Have one person talk and then the other. This is the duty of the chairman. Ensure that everybody gets a chance to be heard. Another way to prevent conflict is to perhaps enlist a facilitator. This person will allow one person to talk and listen to the various parties' discussion points. They would help each party understand each other. But if conflict really does get out of control, it's wise perhaps as a chairman just to take a break. Tell everybody just to take a 10-minute break and to calm down. It's during this break that you'll often find people will calm down and just get cognizance of where they are. When they return to the meeting, ensure that each person in the room is given an opportunity to talk singularly. That is, no one talking over anyone else. A final way to avoid conflict or to prevent conflict is to bring in a third party. This person may be more experienced than the two that are arguing or conflicting against each other, and their third opinion may just turn the tables for you as the chairperson. With conflict resolved, you'll be in a position that your organization will be able to make decisions and reach its goals. Okay, so as I mentioned to you earlier, the distribution of the minutes must happen within 48 hours of your meeting taking place. This is important because some people are going to have to action things that they promised they would do inside the meeting. So before a follow-up meeting, you want to ensure that action has taken place by those who've promised to do so. Try to have those parties that were present at the meeting promising some action to give feedback along the way before the next meeting. As an organization, we're all about action and decisions and doing things. When people say they'll do something in a meeting, try to ensure that they do. Follow them up. And remember, at the end of a meeting, it might be wise just to have a look at how the meeting went. Were the refreshments good? Were the eats okay? Was the venue suitable? Was there air conditioning? Have a look and have a checklist on a follow-up on the last meeting that you just had. That way you can improve the next meeting. I'm Graham Ward. Thank you for listening and good luck with the online assessment.